Right, Prof, is there a problem with this sort of deals when we see 143 billion value of Ruto's deals before meeting China President Xi Jinping without necessarily getting the other side of it in terms of what does Kenya have to give? Because it's a quid pro quo. So if this amount of investment comes in, what are we giving in return?
Thank you, Trevor. Trevor, I think the first thing that we must say in response to some of what we are seeing is that, one, there's need to bridge the gap in this country, and that the president is doing the right thing. Because, number one, the president did not just go to China to negotiate for loans without a basis. The framework is that we have specific projects, 15 key infrastructural projects that we are trying to bridge so that the gap, and of course there's no doubt that the debt ceiling has probably gone high, but with a purpose. Trevor, Kenya is a third world country. Of course, we are moving to the next level. And I have seen many things, the cliches around where Kenya is at in comparison to Uganda, Tanzania, and other countries. But the position is this. The president has addressed two important things. The framework of borrowing by the World Bank and the IMF that have traditionally been hinged, or that traditionally factor on a number of key reform questions and other things that governments must do, in my view, are updated. And this is the divide between China and the US. When Trump came into power, he brought in a number of reforms, and those reforms affected institutions, including USAID, and many people lost their projects out there and in Kenya and in the region. President Ruto is doing what he must to ensure that in these deals with China, he's able to bridge the gap out of certain projects that were traditionally funded by funds from, they're the main funds, but they're also side funds. And the president then, in addressing China and knowing that, of course, he'll get funding from China, knows that when Beijing funds projects, there'll be, of course, the quid pro quo, which is cooperation in a number of areas. And I think, and it is not lost to us, that even IMF and the World Bank would also only give conditional loans. Their loans are not without a condition. So there's nothing new in this arrangement. I think what we need to be concerned about as a people is that we want to see these loans applied for the benefit of infrastructure development in this country within a framework where we do not have waste in the application of these funds. Even when we see the fight or the struggle between the national and devolved units on who should apply funds, for instance, the RLMF funds that are appropriated for the benefit of our people eventually, we know that in the end, we want to see a framework that best utilizes the funds for the benefit of the people of this country. And I think lastly, let me just point to this. The president is doing a good job. It is good to have a president, at least, who goes out there aware that we need to grow this country. We do not want to see what we saw last year, the finance bills that unduly tax Kenyans, or that unduly make it difficult for Kenyans to lead a normal life. We must bridge that gap. And how do we bridge that gap? You only bridge it when you go out there. Yes. So I think we should be thanking President Ruto for what he's doing good for this country. He's not just sitting back and taxing Kenyans locally to develop our infrastructure. Remember, we also need the infrastructure. If we don't have good infrastructure, Trevor, we cannot grow. I will give you in a few certain projects that we have, for instance, in some of these counties. When the governors talk about going back to the Moi era, it's unfortunate. Because, Trevor, I know that since the advent of devolution, certain counties, my county has almost received 69 billion Kenyan shillings, for instance.
We're coming to that conversation.
Yeah, but just as I'm just giving you a tip of the conversation. that devolution has brought in a framework that has seen new levels of growth in the 47 counties. And the president is simply trying to bridge the gap by ensuring that the national is able to deliver in its set functions that, and the regions or the governors under Schedule 4 of the Constitution as defined, are also able to deliver.
Okay.
So let the president work for the people of this country.
Okay, we're coming to that conversation right after this break.
Yes.
But